Welcome back, race fans, to another episode of Nitro Talk here on Everything Nitro. I am your host, Andrew Morales, and for today's guest, we're excited to have the owner and driver of the Hot for Teachers Nitro Funny Car, Alex Miladinovich. How you doing, Alex?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So to dive into your career and your life, before we met you at the 2020 Winternationals, you were a kid growing up with your dad, your brother, your family, and you were a mechanic fresh out of the gate thanks to your father. And boat racing, how does that come about?
Well, boat racing started with the vice principal at the high school that my dad taught at. Used to race circle boats, and they were actually K boats, and he raced with Bob Bodie
Wow.
Senior, that is. And the circle boat scene was pretty big in Southern California, and that was my crossover into race engines. The circle boats, you have the love because it's mostly in the summertime. There's women in bikinis and there's models and there's cool looking boats with V8s. Colorado River, Long Beach Marine Stadium, a lot of cool places to race.
Right.
But then when I went to my first drag race, that was the end of it. But Mr. Phil Stock at Orange High School, he taught with my dad for years, and he was very pivotal in helping my brother and I out, and I cross over into race engines, and that's kind of where it started from there.
And you started building race engines as you are today in the garage with your brother Robert. Looking back on it, did you guys really ever see you progressing this much in life? It's never easy. It's never an overnight thing. But to see how far you guys have come from the front engine dragster days, building your own car, your own engines, and I believe you even built your own nostalgia funny car, right? The Mustang that you guys are running. You guys built that in your garage as you did your big show funny car today.
Yep, we started doing that just because it's the only thing we knew how to do. The funny car fabrication came off when I started helping out with Steve Pluger. You know, he built a lot of funny cars for years. That's how the fabrication side. But I'm sitting here in my brother's garage right now. He's actually fixing a bike tire on his mountain bike, and it just started because that's all we knew. Building the engines was something we did for fun, and on our off time. Was never a job. It was never hard work. It was just something we get together and our buddies, and we talk about, you know, how fast we wanted to go, how fast we were, how fast we could have been. But it was just my brother and his buddies would always hang out and just have a good time doing it. Could never pay anybody, you know, one of the big engine builders around here to build us engines, but we had the knowledge. My dad was always there. And if we couldn't find the answers, I mean, there was always a speed book, you know, a speed shop, Smokey Unic, a Chevrolet General Motors, you know, rebuild book that we could get the information or just flat out talk to other racers. So we just started just having fun, wanting to go fast. We didn't have money for anything else. And then when the fabricating came along, it was just, I'm going to buy a welder and I'm going to build a car. And that's all I had was that sentence.
Wow.
So I scraped up enough money. I saved, bought a welder, and got the SFI prints on the front engine dragster. And I saved up. I bought a front engine dragster as an old Woody car, and from there I was able to copy it.
Wow. So as you're showing more interest in the driving side of it, did your father or your brother said, "Hey man, slow down. This is a little bit dangerous," or was that something your father knew from the get-go? I can't stop Alex from doing this.
No, my dad was never really, he was always into hot rods. He was never into the racing side of it. He just thought that every time we would build these things and go, you know, basically try to blow them up. He was never really the type that said that was crazy. He just thought it was a big waste of money. And then my brother was like, "Hey, don't go blowing your stuff up, you dummy. You know, we got all those hours into that." And he's like, get it to go as fast as you can, but just don't blow it up because then you're really going to piss me off.
And you competed in 8 seasons over there on the NHRA Heritage Series. How much has that helped you in your career transforming into the big show car? And was your goal always to hop in a Nitro Funny Car from Nostalgia Funny Car?
Oh, the end game was always Funny Car for me. Ever since I saw Force's Oldsmobile with Flames, that was my goal in life. All I ever wanted to do was to drive top fuel funny cars. in the Nostalgia series, when I had my first front engine dragster, they didn't have the funny car class at the time. So once it came about, that's when I knew at that point I needed to make my move. And from there, the nostalgia cars were a lot more work driving and the shifting with the, having the 2-speed, but I was able to cut my teeth and really get a chance to learn how to drive and with these conditions at all these hot racetracks. And I raced against the best. Heck, man, we had Ron Capps,
Yep.
Todd Payton, and Chris Crable. Just the list goes on and on of all my buddies. They are the best drivers out there. And I got a chance to stage with the best of them. And they're all tough competitors. And that Nostalgia Funny Car is just as tough as the Top Fuel.
And in past years, if history showed us anything, we would see more drivers make the leap from top alcohol funny car to the big show. Now we see a trend of nostalgia funny car guys making that jump. What is it like lining up against the guys you raced with in the Heritage Series like Densham, Gerardo, Rupert, Chris Morrell, and you mentioned Caps, you raced against him because he was willing to go take that leap over there in the Heritage Series and have some fun. So seeing those guys in the big show class today, is it kind of like a little bit of a reunion, or are you happy to see, that leap come from the nostalgia cars?
Oh, no, it was awesome. It was cool to see, Densham, you knew what was going to happen. He was going to be there. I didn't meet Tony Gerardo until he actually built his AA car, and having everyone come over. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's like our own little, our class of 94 or whatever you want to call it. It's all of us. It's like our team within the team of funny cars.
Right.
And it's great having them. And it's funny because a lot of the crew members that crew on the big cars on their off weekends, they're always at the hot rod reunion. They're always at the March meet because they never paired those races up with a national event. So you didn't realize how many crew members worked on big teams. And we were testing late at Las Vegas and we had some food left over, and Clay Milliken guys were still working it. It was 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And so we had some food that we had catered, and I went over the trailer and I poked my head in, and I knew all the the crew from the Nostalgia Funny Car. So it was cool to have all those guys there. And it was comforting to have some familiar faces, because I was a little nervous to show up at Pomona and just, here we go, man. It was like a 20-year-old Alex showing up with all macho and I was nervous as but I just went for it, and that's the way it ended up.
I remember watching your Instagram story and following along, through social media at this point. And I remember one of your stories, you're walking into the media room, for picture day and stuff like that. And whoever was recording was genius because they got your raw emotion out of the gig. You said, "Oh my God, there's Cruz Pedregon. Oh my God, there's," and that was hilarious. I remember showing my girlfriend that. I showed so many people that just because I said, that is so awesome. Like, that's like us walking in there and being starstruck or just enjoying the moment. Like, that's what that moment was for you. So
yeah, it was cool. I was like the person who snuck into the concert and got backstage. I mean, it was cool. Everybody was there. And then I got an email at the last minute. They had a team owners meeting Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And they wanted all the team owners and drivers. And I'm like, well, that's me. So I don't even know where to go. And it was at that restaurant over by the horse track. And and I walk into this room and all the NHRA brass there. And the Josh Peterson got me all dialed in with my license the weekend before in Las Vegas. And I walk in, and it's the entire, just whatever you want to call it, cast of NHRA Pro Stock, dragster and funny car. Don Schumacher walked in with his marketing people and Forrest and the gang. And I was starstruck, and I was like, okay, I got to take notes and write all this important stuff down. And I wish I could have snuck my phone and started recording, but yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. That was one thing I kind of regret, that I had more time at the track, is to go screw off with these people and hang out and, barbecue. And, it'd probably have to be one of those charity events or something, because we're all there to race. But to hang out and see those people, that was awesome.
What was it like growing up in Southern California with all this drag racing around you?
Oh, it was awesome. The Worsham when they ran the car out of their house, it was just up by where I went to junior college, and if I'd get out of class early enough and there was time, I'd swing by their neighborhood. And in the off season, they'd always be there working. You'd see the rig in town, and I'd go down their street. It was in this horse property where they allow everyone to have horse stables and everything. And I'd drive real slow just to see if I can see, anything cool. I was always too young. Kenny Bernstein's place was right down the street from here, and in the same city of Orange. And Tom McEwen, and I was always too young for when McEwen was racing. Then Bernstein moved to shop over to South Orange County area. But right up the street off the 91 freeway, John Force Racing started in that warehouse, which was an old car dealership or something. And it just doesn't end there. I mean, Jim Dunn's been really helpful with my brother and I getting parts and information. And he still had the shop in Southgate where Keith Black Racing was, and that whole back garage. I mean, everybody, Dick LaHaye, Roland Leon, they all had their rigs there. And that was Jim Dunn had them all because now it was his race team. And then that was pretty cool because someone was always not just a phone call away, but you could run over on your lunch break, in between traffic jams to go see them and ask a question or even just to measure a part. That was always really cool.
So is it true? Is it true? I don't doubt it's not true that you ran into Robert Height at a dinner one night and you paid for his dinner?
I can't. Yeah, there's an old steakhouse in Orange, and on any given night when Jimmy Proc's dad, Tom Proc, used to live in the area, him, Mike Cool, and Tom McEwen, on any night you could go in there and see him having dinner. And this was an old school steakhouse. If you imagine the Regal Beagle from the TV show Three's Company, there we are. It's this old school steakhouse. I mean, they serve brown cocktails and good food. And there was Height in the back having dinner. And, again, I get starstruck, so I'm trying to contain myself. And I knew the waitress because I was actually in there with Phil Stock, my boat racing friend. And I said, hey, that couple in the back, can I buy their dinner? And she goes, oh, yeah, absolutely. No problem. And so it was cool. Bought them dinner. And after dinner, they came by. And then he recognized me because I worked on Pluger's car at the time. And that was way cool seeing him there. Every time I see him at Pomona or at the track, I go, hey, let's blow this hot dog stand and go grab a steak. And yeah, the Tartan Room's a cool place to go have dinner. And it's very old school Orange.
That's pretty cool. That's something you don't see every day. Maybe you'd, like you mentioned, you saw pretty often given the area you were in. But from your Nostalgia Funny Car days, you want to make that leap. Were you already working on your Nitro Funny Car, or did you stop everything completely and said our main focus is going to be on this big show car?
No, that was a burst of macho that went horribly wrong. I was able to I bought the SFI spec for the AA Funny Car, and all the patterns were the same, and the only changes were going to be with the taller roll cage and the new spec that they switched to in 2005, I think, when they went to the new SFI spec. It was an easy build because, like I said, all you're really doing is building the car on the table, and it was the same specs as the Nostalgia car as far as positioning and setting the car up. A little bit more overhang because of the bodies are different and the roll cage. And so I just said, I'm going to build this, and wherever it goes, I'm just going to roll with it. And if it didn't work out, I could have used that car as a Nostalgia car, just make a few changes, and it just would have been a little stiffer with respect, to the safety. And I just started, and everyone's kind of, hey, what's with the new car? Are you selling this? I said, no, I'm not in the chassis business to sell cars. And I just started with it, and then it just kind of, it was like a snowball, and it just perpetuated. And I said, well, okay, if I could sell my car for X amount, I could have this much money left over, I could buy certain key things. And there was a couple Top Fuel operations locally that were parting off some parts, and I knew at that point I could have parlayed that money into something else. And I did. So I sold the Nostalgia car, sold the motor, the motors, and the rat poison fuel altered in South Carolina, and the Mustangs in Boston, Massachusetts with Dana Hard. He's running as the Die Broke. So I knew if I sold this and this, I can get X amount of money and just get started. And from there, everyone would say, well, how are you going to get sponsors? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to do it. I'll find it along the way. And it took some time, but selling the parts off and, flipping all the nostalgia parts and just trying to basically sell everything I had. And then once I got started, a lot of the teams were really cool to us, selling their used parts, or, when they crossed over to the latest and greatest. I was able to buy that stuff for about the same price as the nostalgia parts were. But all the big teams, literally everybody on the footprint of an NHRA national event, minus the pro stock teams, have sold me parts. And they've been really cool to me. And I'm on the horn with them, every other day, seeing what they got. And they always know when they make changes, they always have my back. And I'm real thankful to a lot of people for that. And that's all it took was just, I wrote it. At that point, I wrote it down. I made the plan. I'm going to build a Top Fuel Funny Car and go race it. And everyone still called me crazy, and they still do. What do you think you're doing? You're nuts. And I'm just going to go until I run out of just interest. And we're having a good time doing it.
And this Brad Anderson hauler, is that something you had over in your Nostalgia Funny Car days, or is that something you acquired when you were going fuel racing?
No, we picked that up along the way when we were building the car. Bernie Harrington had it. He passed away a few years back. He was a Division 7 alcohol racer. And we had a mutual friend that said, hey, they're selling everything. They're looking to get rid of the entire alcohol operation, the truck, and they had a ton of parts. And so we were able to pick that up along the way. And Verstate Trucking helped us out. They got that thing up to speed. A lot of crew members, Keith and Bubba, they put a lot of work into making that their baby. It's like I have a full-time car crew and then the crew that does the rig and all that, the truckers, and then the funny car guys. And we were just fortunate enough to get that. And that I love that truck. It's beautiful.
Must tell a lot of stories, untold stories, I'm sure.
If it could talk, we'd have to set it on fire. Pull all the wires and sink it, whatever you want to do. We have to get rid of that thing.
So here you are getting your funny car together and you make some test hits in Bakersfield. What was it like to step from, a nostalgia funny car where you're hitting lights, you're shifting, all the way to a big show car, and, the clutch pulls in, everybody talks about blurry vision.
To say I had butterflies in my chest is to put it lightly. It was like having a bald eagle trying to rip out of your soul. When we did the nostalgia car, when we made the switch, Jeff Arend and Del Worsham, and they were there helping us out. They were testing their car, and they were there to make sure we didn't do anything wrong. They kept an eye on us. The track, the facility at Bakersfield, that was really the best place for me to do it because it was my home track. It was like trying to jump your bicycle and you're down the street with all your buddies around. How many bikes can I jump if we build it this big? That was comforting to me, and I just knew the dual mag cars, you don't have to drive them as much as a nostalgia car. The caveat to that is when things go wrong, it goes wrong really, really fast. And that was Jeff Arend told me that, and a lot of guys. He's a great driving instructor. I had a chance to talk with him. The lockup that no words can describe when that clutch locks up and it starts to throw you to the finish line. And it feels like the finish line, you're going to crash right into it. The moment you hit the chutes, it starts to give you a little bit of breathing room. But the lockup is why I fell in love with car racing. Being thrown back in the seat and having your spine feel like it's being squeezed like orange juice. That's why I fell in love with car racing. My brother had an old 67 Nova when we were kids, and he'd run that thing down the street. And I do not promote street racing, but he'd stretch your legs out and that V8 horsepower would kick in. And that was the love affair with cars. That's truly why I got into it. And being at Bakersfield, again, I love that place. But the focus of driving, the car, that thing just commands your respect. And there's you got when you stab the throttle, you got to make sure you're ready to go. And any John Force interview you've ever heard is pretty much what it's like.
And you mentioned your brother Robert and your wife. What is it like for you and for them to watch you go through this process, to see your dreams become a reality, just to see all the hard work, not just you, but your whole family has put into this. You're a family owned operation. You guys work in house, heck, in garage, and you've built so much. And talk about that experience of having your loved ones there, and just going through that process with them.
It's awesome. I get a lot of fun doing it with the family. They're there. They've always been a part of it from day one. It's humbling, and it's just they're part of the team, part of the ship, part of the crew, type of deal. It's I mean, they're my life. They keep me rolling. They always have my back. So that's what it takes to do this. I've never had the opportunity to hire and pay people because we never had the funding for it. So it was my best buddies, we can get together and go run the car, and at the end of the day, go sip on some cold ones, but having the family there, it's cool. My father-in-law is able to come to the races with us, so it makes it really easy for my wife because we're basically traveling with part of her family. I was able to get my nephew on the starting line at Las Vegas, and we blew his eardrums. That was pretty cool. And it's a lot. It's a family sport too. When you see a lot of the teams, I mean, Terry McMillan's always got his son out there, and the Force has all of his grandbabies. I mean, that's pretty cool. And I'm pretty much, the luckiest guy in the world to be able to do that with my family because they're there. I don't have to phone them up and say, hey, we did something really cool, or, oh gosh, did you see the TV coverage? It was really bad. Well, they're there and they get to experience it with me.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool that my sister-in-law, when she was leaving Pomona with my nephew and his good friend, they ran into Force, and she got starstruck herself and said that you used to be my brother-in-law's favorite driver. But
used to be
number one competitor, but Force has been cool to us. So, but no, it's great having them around. I love it.
And you head to Vegas about a week and a half, maybe a week until Pomona 2020 Winternationals, and you get your license. You make your final licensing pass. What was it like to finally get that monkey off your back, to be like, okay, we're heading to Pomona next week. We're not just showing up. We're ready for this, and we're ready for the big stage.
That was cool. There's a sentence that comes to mind. That's the last time you do that to me. And I said, that's the last time. It's going to take me 40 years to get my funny car license. Like, can't say that without getting all cracked up. But that was, I can't even explain it. It was awesome to finally make that happen. And once I got that final signature from the track official, NHRA signed off. You've seen the Cats video where he signed my license for, that was the year his rig caught fire.
Yeah.
Force signed it. I got my first John Force speech. So it was everything rolled into one. And as soon as we packed up and hit the highway, I was on the phone from Las Vegas to Orange, California, the 4.5 hour drive. I didn't even have a ride home because my father-in-law had to leave early. He was ski racing in Mammoth, had to do something to get back into town. And I was on the phone. We had to get more parts because we kind of used some things up. We heard a motor, and Jim Dunn's always my go-to. He'll always have a used crank with some life left on it. And I was on the phone until Wednesday the next day trying to get clutch discs, spark plugs, bearings, and we had the money to do it. And again, everyone helped us pull it off. So I got to play Rockstar, or whatever you want to call it, like racer, for a week and a half. We packed up and went straight to Pomona, and that was the inaugural Winter Nationals.
Alex, this is not going to be a dream tomorrow. You will race at the 60th Winter Nationals. You built that car in your garage. What does this mean to you?
It's everything. Came here when I was 16. My brother builds all the motors. He brought me here, and I love the sport. My brother, we build all the motors at his house. We do all the stuff for ourselves. I'm really emotional, and I'm sorry for crying. Not supposed to talk when you cry. 35 years to get here. And in one weekend, I got the team, all my buddies, KP, Junior, Big Dummy, my wife, I wish I brought my girls. My daughter's at home saying she's bored of grandma. She goes, I want to come out and hang out with Terry McMillan's kid. I'm ecstatic. I'm really happy. So I hope I get some sleep tonight because we barely made that turnaround. So I felt like John Milner and American Graffiti. So that's all I got, man. Red Line Oil, L&N Linens, Cortinas, Red Shirt Friday, BI Motorsports. Thank you. I love you. I love you. And Mellow Yellow. Go on Yellow.
The personality that came out of you that day, although, like I mentioned to you earlier, I followed the name. As soon as we knew Alex Miladinovich had a license, we'll be at Pomona. It's like, okay, here's another guy to watch out for. You're always intrigued by these up-and-comers, whether they're making a debut, whether they come out every so often. They're the ones you want to watch because you are the future of this sport, and you're making things happen. You're making your dream become a reality. So off the bat, you're on my list of drivers to watch. And just seeing you come out of that car with that interview, hearing and being a part of the cheer in the crowd and just all of that unfolded was later on in life. I've been to plenty of Winternationals, Auto Club finals. That's one of the highlight moments. Definitely top 3 moment.
We're qualifying now. That was awesome. Even when we ran the nostalgia car at Pomona, when we did, promotional stuff, coming through the gates of that tunnel, there's something at that track. It's the mysticism. I don't know, the California sunshine, call it what you will, but all the history there at the track, that was pretty cool. It was my home track. Once I came through that tunnel and the starter goes off, it was pretty much, I had to focus on the driving at that point. The whole, the marketing side, all that's turned off. But when it was all said and done, a lot of people were able to film it, and I wasn't really able to soak it in at the time because of the emotion that was there. It was awesome. It was an amazing experience. And then, of course, I jump out, and there's Amanda Busick, and she's beautiful. She's this awesome interviewer, and she goes and hits me, and you think of everything that you're going to say. And, you got to make sure you get all your sponsors. Well, luckily for me, the majority of them were standing there because they're part of the crew. And to make sure, you give a shout out, this may be my last time on TV. You just don't know. And you make sure you don't say any F words and, and try to make the point. Cause I've always made fun of people. Like, what was that Jerry Maguire movie where Cuba Gooding Jr. is making fun of the guy cause he never knows what to say. And I just, anything that came to my head, I just said it. And it was, if a dog would have walked by, I would have said, and I love dogs too. I mean, I really don't know. I just shouted everything that came to my mind, and it was cool. Everyone there, the stands were nuts and we're towing back. And I'm like, hey, is Force passing us? Because everyone's going nuts here, and they were cheering us on, and that was cool to be my home track. And who knows if it would have been Las Vegas or Brainerd or anything. But it was an amazing experience to have as a spectator and to be on that side for all the years. And like I said, watching, Kenny Bernstein in the dragster, all the pictures, my brother and I used to, take those disposable cameras, and I got photo albums, and just to be there, I was like, wow, we're qualified. I was like, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. And we turned the car around. I got to sleep that night. And of course we get Hagen, who came off his championship. And that is one of the toughest cars to beat on the circuit. And it just cracks off a number. And I remember standing next to him like, oh my God, he's so fit. Like he's like, he should have been a bodybuilder over a drag racer.
One of my favorite quotes from that interview that you said, sorry for crying. I know you're not supposed to talk when you cry. That will stick with me forever. That was hilarious.
Yeah. You try to talk, and it's like someone's got cotton balls in the back of your mouth. You're like, oh my God, I can't even talk.
Yeah, we've been there. Yeah.
And I think about, that movie, Cuba Gooding Jr. You're not supposed to cry, man. And then he gets on the interview, and then he starts crying, and I just tearing up, and I can't even talk. I'm like, oh my God, my brother's going to make fun of me on this one.
You make your debut at the Auto Club Winternationals in Pomona. The very next race you attend is at Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis, Indiana. One of the biggest, the Super Bowl of drag racing events. And although it was a 2 qualifying session, you qualified at both those national events. And you drove from one end of the country almost across to the other side, and you show up with your Hot for Teachers racing team, your wife, your crew, your family, your brother, and you guys qualify.
That was awesome. It's one thing about Yugoslavs. They're hard-headed and always intense. The going to Indy was always a bucket list thing for mine. And Coach Holman, you know, started the charity Red Shirt Friday. He was able to help us out, and he says, "Hey, we can cover this trip. Let's do it. It's either now's the time to do it." We just came out of, you know, America opening up with COVID and all that. The two qualifiers, I knew that was going to be a game changer for a lot of the teams, because some of these crew chiefs coming off of a long sabbatical like that,
right?
The learning curve was for it was even the playing field, but we were all able to test on Thursday and Friday when we got there. So all the fast guys, they have their playbook, and
right.
We just did what we did, go out and let Kevin, tune the car like he wants. And, we were able to get in with some decent numbers, and that was pretty cool. I mean, Indiana, I'd highly recommend going to the U.S. Nationals, Lucas Oil Raceway. I love that place.
And that kind of answers my next question. As a single car operation, do you enjoy the format now or the 3 qualifying sessions? And does that level the playing field?
A lot of these teams, they have a playbook. They show up, they open up files. They have to make a mistake for something like that. For guys like me, the 3 runs, yeah, you could capitalize on some mistakes. If you go back to, I think it was 2013 when Height won the championship, on the 3 qualifiers, he wasn't in until the final, till qualifying session number 4.
Right.
And of course, he set the national record, gave him the points, and then he had to do everything. But until Q4, he was not in the event. And for us, it just, we need to have the better car. We need to get from the 16, 17. We need to shoot for 13, and we're getting there. Our new chassis is working perfect. KP's got a handle on the tune-up, and as we start to tickle the clutch, we're making progress. So the 3 runs, all it really does is save me money. Right. From a nitro, parts attrition point of view. Really, I mean, we're going to go testing with everybody in early February. I need 20 runs because we only run part-time. So a lot of these teams who are just in their qualifying, if you figure at 23 races a year, all those guys are running all 4 qualifiers. It's amazing to watch them work. I'm even shocked on how efficient they are. And we strive for that. So we do need more qualifying. But as far as that, it never really bothered me. I would like to have the 3rd session because you really get in the groove of it. As part-timers, I got 2 crew members that work for the water district in Arizona. And, we all get together and we got to knock the rust off because we don't have a time to practice, like the big teams do. But we got to be better. We got to bring the better car. And truthfully, we're there to race, and right. We just got to do our job and get it down the track. And that includes me and the crew. The 3 runs just save us money.
And not only just 3 qualifying sessions, but you've actually lined up against 3 other drivers in the 4-wide national event over there in Vegas. What was that experience like? Very few people on this planet have done that. So having, 33,000 horsepower over in the other lanes left and right, what was that experience like from the driver's seat?
That I really did not know what to expect, so I went into it with just an open mind. I just knew that there was 2 other lights I had to account for while staging. So from that, I tried to not let it bother me, because I was never that driver that got into I'm the driver that needs to stage second, or I only stage first. I never got into those games, because in nostalgia racing, you have such different groups that you race with. You may race against someone that's never raced before, or even the one time Dennis Taylor had the pedal clutch, he came over and said, "Hey, don't be alarmed. I'm going to buzz the motor up," because he had the clutch out of his alcohol car. So that was the one thing. Running the nostalgia car gave me a chance to just kind of be, more well-rounded to things that get thrown at you. The only thing that really messed me up is while I was getting ready to stage, I was waiting for the guys to adjust the wheelie bar. I saw someone go in and stage, and I went, oh my God, that's dumb. Their clutch is going to be hot, because there's the rule where everyone has to be staged in the 4-wide for those deals. But what it was is it was a crew chief finding the beam for his driver. And
Oh,
and
okay.
so from that, I just tried to not let it bother me. I just knew that there was 2 more lights. And truthfully, a lot of these guys, their start to stage time is 1:40 seconds. So we spent a lot of time testing. We actually had someone with a stopwatch. So we knew if people were calling us out on our timing, we had a time and we were well within our time frame. So as far as our starting procedure, if we just did it the way we would do it, we would be fine. The only thing I really had to worry about was the clutch getting hot. But since I built the fuel tanks for our car, I made sure we had plenty of fuel, for those situations, or if someone wanted to, have some fun with us, that we'd have plenty of fuel in our tank. So our tanks are bigger and our car's slightly heavier than all the other cars. So I knew we would be okay in that direction, but it's just, you want to keep the clutch cool, because I knew as soon as I let that pedal out, KP was going to give me a hard time if I let it get too hot.
And as we were talking about your test session over there in Bakersfield, you mentioned Jeff Aren, Del Warsham. Is there anybody in your ear giving you advice, maybe from qualifying pass to qualifying pass? Or is it just Alex Miladinovich, going up there, guns a-blazing?
This is going to sound really dumb and corny, but when the clutch starts to lock up, the words that come to mind was every John Force speech, oh, my doggy was cooking. And just to put those words into being, smashed into the back of the driver's seat. The one thing that John Hale said, the one bad Texan, he said, Alex, once these cars lock up, you cannot steer them. So if they're aiming straight, wherever it's going, it's going. So make sure when the clutch goes 1-to-1 that you're aimed for the sand trap, because if you're aimed towards the wall, that's where you're going to go, because you cannot steer it. And then, Del came over and looked at my steering. I just want to have him sign off on it before we packed up and left town. And he said, no, everything looks good. Just be prepared. Because there was one year he said he'd go through a set of tires every race, because he'd turn the wheel and the tires would drive sideways down the track because they were just wearing them out. And that was the one thing that stuck to mind, is have that thing straight, because you're just along for the ride. And at Pomona, you got to be on the chutes right when you hit the finish line, because you run out of time there real fast.
Right. At that same exact race in a Nostalgia Funny Car, Dan Horan Jr. went into the sand trap end over end, and that was a scary sight. So that's exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah, and I missed the chutes at the finish line on the first try at the one session, and then the safeties kicked off, and you're waiting like, oh my God, they're not out yet, please. And then boom, they hit. And those new carbon brakes from Strange are pretty tough. So they get the job done.
Now, you bring up Red Shirt Friday. You have many supporters that have kind of jumped on board in the M12 Racing, Hot for Teachers Racing team. And nothing sticks out to me more than Red Shirt Friday. Matter of fact, I would have never have heard or been aware of this foundation if it wasn't for you. Since you have came on the scene, I've been such a big fan, supporter. I love everything that Red Shirt Friday represents. Seeing you guys at the track on Friday night, red t-shirts, red hats, supporting a great cause, military, veterans. Just talk a little bit about that and what it means to have those colors on your car.
It's amazing. Red Shirt Friday, to get everyone in the United States to wear red to support our troops deployed. That means a lot to me, because I have family members and friends who are of all veterans, and I got a second cousin that's active military. You don't need to believe in the cause and the politics of it, but you can support our brothers and sisters that are in active duty. And Coach Holman started the redshirtfriday.com. He had his business. He goes, I don't want anything about my business. Let's just support the charity. So he says, let's start selling the shirts. We'll do some custom ones if people want it for their businesses, and all the money will go to veterans programs. And he picked Active Valor as the main one, and it's getting veterans jobs and veterans who have been successful after their service to help other veterans. And all the proceeds go to that charity. And even Coach Holman said if we can even take this to the next level. So if we had regional people who wanted to start their own Red Shirt Friday programs in other states, we could do that too. But it was just get everyone to wear red to support our brothers and sisters that are deployed, and stands for respect everyone deployed. There's another version that remember everyone deployed, but we'll go from a respect standpoint, and it's something we can believe in because we're all Americans and we all help each other out.
Amen. Absolutely. And here we are, about a month out from the 2022 Winter Nationals. Kind of talk about what's going on behind the scenes at the Miladinovich residence. And actually a question I had for you, we see you warming up the car and having fun gatherings in your garage at your house. You got to be one of the coolest neighbors to date. I mean, no, I don't think anybody has ever had a neighbor as cool as you.
Well, I'm lucky I live behind a school, so when we're doing all of our dumb stuff, there's no neighbors on that side. I got cool neighbors to the right and left of me where we do all the car stuff. They let me park the truck and block their driveway. I just make sure it's okay with them. They're home. Andy and Darlene, they're into off-roading, and on the other side, they're way cool. We do all the motor work there. I'm at my brother's house. You can see right here. That's number 429. That's the one we ran at Pomona, and that's the one he just went through. That one we're going to start the season off with. So again, we joke this is our motor department. If you take a look around, I mean, there's the washer and dryer, and the
nice.
We come around. There's the boat motor, the picture of Kenny Bernstein in the corner, and if I flipped it all around, it probably looked like the Blair Witch Project. But there's the street, and my brother and my nephew there on their day off. Let's see if I can do that. There's Robert, and there's
there he goes.
He got out of school.
How you doing, guys?
So this is it. This is where we do the engines. Really, the off season. Once we got a handle on the clutch, we got a DSR clutch, and it was a different style because our old one was from 1997. So the way the clutch is applied is a little different. So we struggled a lot of the 2021 this year getting the thing to lock up, and it was how it was going to work with our chassis. So that's all behind us. We had 18 laps of just pure learning curve. Frustrating. The only thing I could say is we learned a lot, and we have a lot of what not to do. So anybody call me if you get into a pickle, or my brother KP Dummy can set you up. We're started building a spare chassis. So having that car that we finished from Pomona to the other Pomona August, we built that car in 7 weeks. We actually had it started. Wow. We started it at my mom's house, and because again, we got a little 2-car garage. That took some doing because it was our other full-time job. We were able to salvage a lot of parts off of it. So that set us up. So for us, it was, I can't outspend those guys, so I can do what they can't do differently. Well, in my spare time, I like building cars. And, was like I said, as soon as we're done here, we're going right to it. We're going to start, cutting and fitting tubes. So we've been building the cars, the clutch maintenance. Look, it's just kind of cool. We're doing maintenance. We're buying new clutch discs. We're updating valve train, just pulling stuff out of service, washing, inspecting, checking for cracks. And Robert took the crank to go get checked, and it got a clean bill of health. So just ordering new parts, but in smaller volumes compared to the big guys. And the only excitement is the new frame, just getting that started.
And how many national events can we expect to see the Hot for Teachers racing team at this year? We know you love Sonoma, Pomona, Vegas. Are those for sure on the list?
Those are on the list. We're going to hit those. We're going to try to go to Houston. We have something brewing. I don't really have anything to say right now on that. And we have a few other things. We just want to get to the East Coast and go race there. And as soon as I got something, you'll be my big announcement when I'll call you, and we'll do it on everything Nitro. We we're always chasing money. Never stopped. I just got to be better at it. Being a full-time, dad and working stiff,
Right.
it's hard to break away the golf course and go have cigars and wine and chase money. But there's a way to do it. And Coach Holman's helping me refine that. And we're working on our media plan. And we're just always actively chasing money. You have to be a good fit for sponsors that are, ready for someone who's homegrown. And I can talk the corporate talk. We're a little bit rough around the edges, but that's how we are. So if you got, whiskey, tequilas, whatever we got, we're there.
One thing that you do that's so great, that other than Clay Milliken, you have a YouTube channel where you upload, you show behind the scenes of what's going on at the shop, in the garage, with the car, with the team. And that is gold. I think that's undervalued at the moment, but give it 2 years. I think you guys will explode on the YouTube side of things. I think you might be making some of that YouTube money that you deserve, because that's what fans are going to see. People want to see this behind the scenes. Luckily, Clay Milliken does that for us on the Nitro side, and it's awesome. I mean, I'm always watching his videos. Matter of fact, I'm restoring a body myself, and what did I come across? Alex Miladinovich and your brother restoring your Toyota body.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
I thought that was awesome.
Santa Ana has all the stuff you need.
And you know what? There's not another video on YouTube about restoring a funny car body, or even the likelihood of it. So that was awesome to see. That's one thing, you fans, if you haven't checked it out already, go subscribe to Alex Miladinovich, the Hot for Teachers Racing YouTube channel. Loads of content on there, from the nostalgia funny car days all the way up to what they're doing today in the shop. And I'm pretty sure much more in the future is going to be posted on that channel. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, I always, like you said, it was added value. It was something I could do to help the sponsors out, the backside. Because again, everyone knows you're a huge race fan, and so am I. I want to know what Clay Milliken's working on. I think that's awesome. Rob Wayland,
yes,
Terry McMillan's crew chief, he's got an awesome one on clutches and fuel pumps. And that's the stuff that always intrigued me. And I thought, from a race fan, or even not just a race fan, someone who's interested in potentially a science project for a kid,
right?
There's videos out there that someone could go to and say, what's a top fuel car? There's a million of them on how guitars work. And that's a good science project too, for junior high and high school kids, about magnetic coils and pickups. So friction, heat, combustion, energy, kinetic energy, it's all there. And I always thought that'd be something cool, added value for the sponsors. And, Redline Oil, we got our Redline Oil stuff in the back. And from a fan, I love it. I go back and, say, hey, what can I do different? Answer any questions. And like you said, you're going to be working on a funny car body. There's not a lot of carbon fiber videos out. Just turns out RevChem's right in Santa Ana. They help out the Colettas, so we're buying stuff from them to maintain our bodies. And it's actually really easy to do. And there's instructionals out there. And again, we even started whacktethrottle.com. We bought the domain name. We have the website. We started doing that in the old days, Scott Palmer and the Worshams. Everyone's bringing that back old school for the race fans. We started a Whack the Throttle countdown clock. I didn't think it was going to be that popular. And we had our friend Kenzie come out and model that. She was our countdown clock girl. And I didn't think it was going to be that popular.
Whack the Throttle came about one day at this race shop, a nice little 500 square foot garage in the city of Orange. And when we were talking about the idea that we love to whack the throttle, many years ago, all these professional teams used to shake the clutch and they'd whack the throttle in the warm-ups, in the pits. Nowadays, because the new clutch systems no longer have to do that. However, Alex has chosen to continuously whack the throttle for our fans. So come on by about 2 hours before our first time we run, and you'll always see it. We'll whack the throttle, and you'll have a damn good time doing it and see it being part of it. Whacktethrottle.com.
Please visit us at whacktethrottle.com.
And it just so happens it was unpopular on one of our top 4 worst weekends ever in racing, but it was intense. I didn't think it would be that popular, but we're bringing Whack the Throttle back for 2022. We'll have the clock. We'll try to get Kenzie out to key races, and it's going to be a great show. And the NHRA, the spectators, everyone buying a ticket, come by, please. If I'm busy, hang out. I'll come see you. And that's why you paid to come to the races, to meet everybody. So it'll be a good time.
Absolutely. And on behalf of every single motorsports fan, drag racing fan, Nitro junkie, thank you for bringing that back. Like you mentioned, Scott Palmer, Warsham, Alexis Ajoria, they do that. And it's what the sport misses. It's what we need. If we can't have long burnouts back, that's okay. We'll settle for the throttle whack. We'll settle for that in the pits. And one thing they're proving, and I talk with this about my buddies, at the track or at a car, Alexis Ajoria and Del Warsham are proving that it doesn't hurt performance. That car goes out and runs 390, 389s and just sets the low qualifier of the session, every other run. So it doesn't really hurt the car in that aspect. So we hope more teams do it. We love Whack the Throttle. That crosses my feed almost every other day, and I love it. Sometimes I go back and just watch the video, and all this new content you have coming out, kind of showing behind the scenes of you and your team, is great. I mean,
no, I appreciate that, and I thank you for all that. And if I can just kind of leave you with this, you're building your own car, and just for the average rec spectator, even if you're not a race fan, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be starting your own rock band. You could be starting art, video, whatever you like. If you want to play baseball, doesn't one cost you anything to be nice, but there's a lot of information out there for you to do it. You can, with this day and age, if you want to learn, I'm trying to learn how to replay the guitar, which I'm horrible at. There's a lot of information out there on YouTube, and there's plenty of people to help. And all it takes is just some hard work and dedication. You got to practice. They always tell you, Slash from Guns N' Roses, it takes 10,000 hours to get to his level of playing. Well, 10,000 hours equates to about 5 to 10 years of practice, rehearsing, playing. So while you're frustrated trying to learn how to weld so you can weld a bracket tab on your car, or you're trying to learn how to deal with carbon fiber or even mounting a body, just be patient. It takes time, takes a lot of hard work. And when it's done, whether it's good, bad, beautiful, or indifferent, you did it, you own it. And if you don't like it, it's beautifully broken, but it's something that you put your hard work into. You don't need money. You just need to have a good work ethic. Hard work and attitude will get you there. And, just like Bob Ross, happy painting,
Thank you so much, Alex. Those are words of encouragement and something I'm going to hold on for a long time and take all that into consideration. Alex Miladinovich needs to have a book somewhere out in the Barnes & Noble shelf somewhere. I don't know. Maybe one of these days we'll get it. But Alex, thank you so much for your time, man. I kept you probably a little longer than I should have, but I want to thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time. We know you're a hardworking guy. It's not easy running a funny car operation, being a driver, having a day-to-day job. There's nothing easy about it. And you know what? One of the coolest things I ever heard is if it was easy, everybody would do it. And thank you so much, man. I look forward to seeing the Hot for Teachers Racing at Pomona. I look forward to seeing your whole crew, your whole team, Red Shirt Friday, and happy birthday to your wife, who recently just had her birthday. Happy birthday to her, and all the best wishes to you and the family.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. And I'll see you at Pomona. I'll
see you at Pomona for sure. And the rest of you race fans will see you at Pomona as well. But that's it for this episode. Thank you, guys.
Peace and love.
I'm hot, the teacher.